Hello everyone, and welcome back to RomCom Reviews with your host, me, Julia. I was feeling a little bit unmotivated to go through the process. But then I came across this Buzzfeed article called I have some strong opinions on the longevity of these rom-com couples, so I ranked them. And I thought that could be a fun news article, see who the author talks about, and if I agree or disagree with what is said. You can follow along with me, and if you have any thoughts, you can share them in the comments. So, I haven't actually looked at the article because I wanted it to be fresh and to be kind of surprised, and frankly, when I opened the article and started looking at it, the first thing I thought was, it's too bad that I have nobody to talk to about what I was seeing. I'm going to have thoughts and opinions, and I want to share them. I'll leave a link to the article in the description box if you want to follow along or if you just want to read it on your own, and we'll get started. So the argument of this article is the quality of romantic comedy depends almost entirely on how much we root for the central couple. But sometimes, even in a good film, the couple falls short. So I already have some thoughts. I completely agree that the quality of romantic comedy depends on how much we root for the central couple, though that doesn't always seem to be taken into account when they're made. So I already feel confident about this article because I feel like we're on the same page already. I and Hannah Martyr. So I'm excited for scientifically calculated percentages, some pseudoscience in there. That's always fun to try to make it real data. It's not real data. So 0%. So I guess we're going from zero, from the lowest to the highest percentage, and there's 19. So we're gonna have some fun. Okay, so Claire and Bender from the Breakfast Club, 0%. Yeah, no, that's fair. I can't fault her for that. They are a fun idea. So for anybody who maybe, I won't get into what the Breakfast Club is because if you don't know, I can't help you. But I'll let you know that Claire is like the popular redheaded Molly Ringwald one, and Bender is the sort of wrong side of the tracks, long hair, flannel guy, right? Yeah, no, I agree that they would not have much of a chance beyond that kind of exciting opposites attract, like piss off your parents, hot girl kind of moment. Let's see what Hannah has to say. Yeah, hot fling for a bit. Yeah, that's all it would be. They'd eventually figure out that they had to kind of live in their own worlds, and we don't really get a lot of evidence that they would actually have anything in common besides sort of an opposites attract, bad boy, good girl kind of thing. So yeah, and also she mentioned that he was such a dick, and he was. Not a lot of longevity there. Erin and Katie from Mean Girls gets a 6%. Let's see what she has to say about that. They only have one real conversation the whole movie. She thought he was hot. Unclear why he liked her. Then he goes to college. Yeah, I agree with all that. I feel like Hannah has a similar approach to kind of evaluating this. It's nice that the movie wraps up with the female, like the protagonist, getting her prince or whatever, and he's super cute. The movie doesn't spend a lot of its time on them as a couple. They're just kind of a device, so you really have no reason to think that they will work. And then next year we see that he's off to college and she's kind of doing her own thing in high school, and like, yeah, that wouldn't have lasted a long time. I like that she put that one. I think it's an interesting one because they're not necessarily terribly suited, but they're not especially well suited. Sandy and Danny from Grease, 10%. Oh, the 10-year-old in me that loved Grease. Feels like this is controversial, but it probably isn't. Before I read what she has to say, I'm going to think this through. Yeah, I mean, they're really different. Again, like it's sort of similar to the Breakfast Club, right? Like opposites attract, kind of bad boy, good girl. It's very exciting and sexy, and maybe would run out of road relatively quickly. But at the same time, the movie does put a lot more emphasis on the fact that they like each other. They're constantly kind of coming back to each other, but at the same time, you don't get the sense that they like have like similar interests or anything. It's more just like they're really attracted to each other despite having other options. Let's see what Hannah has to say. Zane totally changed herself. Sandy would have grown to resent him for this. She probably sang an epic breakup battle and dumped his ass. That's what Hannah says. I think that's a really good point. She does change herself, but I think there's an implication that she's not like gonna start wearing that forever. It was just a way of getting his attention, even though he obviously found her attractive when she was in her like, you know, like Sandra Dee type getup. So I think it's just that like they're really different people, and I don't get a lot of reasons for why they would work. And again, like end of high school is just like, it's tough. It's tough, but I maybe wouldn't put 10%. 10% seems a little low considering how hard they work to kind of get together, and despite the other options that they have. I don't know. I feel like that's controversial. Let me know what you think. Jake and Melanie from Sweet Home Alabama, 20%. Jake and Melanie from Sweet Home Alabama, 20%. No. Disagree. I totally disagree. I can't give many reviews of all these movies. We'll be here forever. But I think in Sweet Home Alabama, they actually do a pretty good job of establishing that these two work well together, right? Like they have a relatively long-term relationship when they're younger through high school, and I think like out of high school, they enjoy each other's company. She has all the New York smoothness she could want in McDreamy, and she doesn't go for that. Obviously she wants something different. So I'm curious to see what she says, because they show their sort of like split life between New York and Alabama, which I guess is probably why she's saying that, and I understand that, but like they show like how it would work, and that he has his business and she has hers, and I liked it, guys. I liked it. I don't want to ruin it. I like those too. Okay, let's see. So Hannah says that she's gonna get a lot of hate for this one, and she did from me. Jake sucked. Their relationship sucked. I feel like I'm gonna need more information. Right, they were married. Of course, that was the crux of the movie. Anyway, there was a reason they were getting divorced. I mean, yes and no. Like, I feel like they explain why their relationship fell apart. Their marriage fell apart. They were too young. Spoilers ahead if you haven't seen Sweet Home Alabama. I can't do it. Sweet Home Alabama. They get pregnant when she's pretty young, and she's really unsure about it because she kind of have to give up her dreams. But he's really excited about it, and then she has a miscarriage, and I think after that it's just like, I need to like get out of this small town and like really try to like make something of my life. And it makes sense to me, but it also makes sense to me that as you get older, you could like repair that. I don't know. I'm thinking about this way too much, but I just feel like this is oversimplifying it. I don't think it would be an unhappy marriage. Yes, I think they fought, but I think that it was a kind of fighting that like I don't do and wouldn't do, but I think other people would do in relationships where you just get like fired up and you get frustrated and you like bicker, but it's like love underneath. Other people seem to do it, and it's very fun in the movie. I feel like I made some good points, and then my reasoning got weak, but I disagree. We have to move on. Edward and Vivian from Pretty Woman, 25%. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere character from Pretty Woman have a 25% chance, which I think I would put them below Sweet Home Alabama, I think, because they like are so like such different people. Like he and their relationship has this really like problematic power dynamic that you really have trouble like making into, I think, a healthy relationship. And she doesn't like, yeah, okay, she doesn't want to like be a hooker anymore. Cool, fair. Maybe she talks a little bit about wanting to do something else, but she's still really like at the beginning of her life. Like she'd have to like find a career, maybe like go to school, like do all these things. And he's, I mean, I don't know how old he actually would have been at that time, but you know, he's 30 plus. I think he has an ex-wife. They're just in really different places in their life, and I just kind of feel like he would expect her to like act a certain way for him because of the way they got. I don't know. I feel like that's like, it would be tricky. It'd be tricky to make that relationship work long term. More tricky than I would say the characters from Sweet Home Alabama. Let's see what Hannah has to say. They might have stayed together, but I don't think they were happy. Yeah. Inherent power imbalance. Yeah. And that wouldn't get resolved. Yeah, I agree. I agree with what she has to say. I would see 25% as like a reasonable amount. Next, we have Sam and Jake from 16 Candles, 29%. Okay. Yeah, I can't really argue with this. Sam and Jake, so that's... it's funny how many of these people, I'm like, oh, those are their names. I'm sure she had to look them up too. Like, I wouldn't know what their names were. I would be like, Molly Ringwald and dark-haired guy. Yeah, no, they don't really have any real scenes together. We don't really see any, like, what they have in common. They have an incredibly sweet ending, and I feel like they would be like one of those really sort of simple high school relationships that are nice, but once you like become your own people, you're probably like, you're still growing up, and you're probably gonna grow up apart because there wasn't anything like really tying you together in the first place, and you're both like pretty hot and pretty socially confident, so you'll probably want to move on to other prospects. Hannah has to say. Right, so the characters really don't know each other at all. That's her point, and I agree. Did they even have a conversation? No. It's sort of a mystery because we really don't know anything about them or even why they like each other, apart from the fact that they're young and attractive, and he's like, she seems different. And she's like, he pays attention to me, and it's a cute boy in school, and like, that's fun for a day, for a month, whatever, but yeah. Okay, now we keep going up, and then we have Austin and Sam from A Cinderella Story. Oof. That's tough. She has them higher than a lot of other couples, which I think is interesting. The thing is, like, I really didn't like A Cinderella Story. I did not enjoy it. So it's hard for me to, like, remember and, like, get clarity on what... I mean, they do interact. They definitely interact. They are, like, pen pals online. My 50? They have an online relationship. So they clearly like enjoy each other's like sense of humor and like things in common and stuff. So in that sense, they seem to have a strong foundation when they finally get together. So like, I feel like it could be 32. It could also be like 50. Like, I honestly I'm so disengaged from that movie that I don't know. So let's just see what Hannah has to say. Emotional bond, fuckboy. Oh, they go to the same college. So yeah, they could have made it work. She says it's still doubtful, which, yeah, that makes sense. It's still like 32%. Very scientific. Yeah, it's unlikely, but it's not like extremely unlikely because they have some things going for them. Okay, next. 12 is Ben and Andy from How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Another movie where I would not know the names of the characters. 38%. That sounds about right. You know, they're adults. They are kind of ready to settle down, potentially. They put each other through like the dating ringer. So I feel like if you can come out of that on the other side and still like each other, that's like actually a decent sign. But at the same time, we don't get a lot of information about why they're together and why they're compatible. Other than the fact that they maintain their relationship with each other through the bet despite all the chaos. I'm not a huge fan of that movie either. It's super gimmicky. So again, I'm like, but they're like appropriate age, live in the same place, have similar jobs. It could work. So Hannah says that she doesn't really know why they fell in love because they aren't themselves for most of the movie. Completely agree. It's why it's not really like, it's funny. It's not super romantic. She says they might have worked it out if they like reveal their true selves, but we don't really see it. So I can see why it's still pretty low. Okay, now we're getting towards 50, but we're still definitely under 50. So like a fail kind of in terms of whether or not they have a chance. Not good odds, let's say. Number 11 out of 19, Amanda and Graham from The Holiday have 45%. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think you're on different continents, right? That always makes things immediately more difficult. She has a business. and he has children, so they can't easily move, either of them, to the other continent. So yeah, it would be tricky. So let's see. The author basically says what I said, which is that the logistics are really tricky, and that the reasons that they weren't going to stay together before they inevitably do stay together, because it's a romantic movie, are still very relevant. It would be tricky, even though they do have a good connection, and I agree, they do a good job of that. They seem like they could have had a shot, but neither of them are really going to be moving. Next. Number 10 is Margaret and Andrew from The Proposal. They get a 54%, which I think... So if we look at it like, now we're in the pluses, now we're in the above 50%, you have more than a 50% shot or odds or whatever. I agree. There's definitely potential there for longevity, but it's still a little rocky. That the foundation for their compatibility is not the strongest. There's a little bit of it, but from what I remember, the movie is set over a couple of days, like maybe like a long weekend kind of thing, maybe like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 days, but not a lot of time. So they have to go from like basically hating each other to falling in love in a short amount of time. And so there just isn't that much compatibility that you can build in, especially with all these different storylines and stuff. So they do a decent job, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of questions about whether or not they're actually compatible, because they're not living their normal lives when they do this. There's all this drama and messiness, and then there's like they're living with his family. So yeah, you'd have to see how it is sort of day in and day out. We don't really know. Let's see what the author says. This is nice because Hannah basically says that like she liked the movie and she is rooting for them. And I agree. I liked the movie. It's funny and it's fun and you are rooting for them, but that like they get married so quickly. Yeah, I guess in the movie I have like very strong impressions of all these movies, but don't necessarily remember all the plot points. I think yeah, they get married so right, they get married because she still wants to stay in the country. So yeah, that would be difficult. And then there's also the power dynamic that exists for a lot of the movie, which, like, let's be honest, when the power dynamic isn't in the woman's favor, I think it's even more difficult, unfortunately, for a relationship to survive. It's still a question mark, but it's a good movie. Next, Amy and Erin from Trainwreck, 61%. Yeah, I'm okay with this too. I feel like Hannah and I, this author who probably lives in LA and is much cooler than me, should hang out, because I'm not hating a lot of her takes on these things. Sorry about that. I ran out of memory. Back to what really matters, which is the couple from Trainwreck. They got a 61 rating by Hannah, by the author, who I apparently refer to by her first name, so that's special. And I agree that they should generally have better odds, because in the movie we do get to see their evolution as a couple. Like, they date for a while, and so we can see that they are relatively compatible. And so I think there is a stronger foundation than there would be in other movies, even though, and this might be what the author ends up referring to, Amy has some significant issues around relationships, so they still might not go the distance. But let's see. So Hannah says that she loves Amy and Erin together, and I agree, and I officially think that we need to hang out and talk about rom-coms, because she has feelings, I have feelings, there are feelings. And so far, she's only made me mad about one of these movies. Or, to be clear, she's only made me mad about her feelings about one of these movies, and I think that's pretty good, considering I have strong opinions. So, let's look at the next one. Will and April from Definitely Maybe got 65%, which I think is fair. I don't remember that movie super well, even though I think I've watched it more than once. I'm a pretty big fan of Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, it's one of those movies that, again, covers many years, and so you get to see the evolution of a relationship, and there's just a stronger foundation of compatibility, which is starting to sound really like boring and not very romantic or magical, but I swear it's not. And I like some movies where you don't have that, I do, but in terms of what we're doing, and just in terms of what I generally like, I do like a larger time frame, a little more time to like get a feel for a relationship. And that movie really builds to the end where they get to come together. So yeah, I think they should be on the plus end. I think that's a little bit low from what I remember, which is frankly not a lot, but it feels low to me, but not like low to the point that I'm offended, you know? So next, Hitch and Sarah from Hitch gets 70%. I don't know. I guess. I don't know. I mean, like they're fine. They're fine. I'm not blown away by them, and considering that before he meets her, he doesn't really show any interest in a relationship. I don't know, 70 seems a bit high, and they have all these problems right out of the gate. So I don't know. Maybe it's just that I feel so strongly that the like B couple of the movie, the one that Hitch like sets up, I feel so strongly that they are like rock solid that I don't even care that much about Will Smith's storyline. I don't know. Maybe. Let's see what Hannah says. Guys, the author, Hannah, we have to be best friends. She actually says, I don't believe in them quite as much as Allegra and Albert because I feel like there are more lies here. But the point, that's what I said. I didn't know their names because I don't know anybody's names, but nobody believes in them as much as they believe in Allegra and Albert because they're so sweet and so good. Best friends. Can we be best friends? No, because you're a person other people know and nobody watches my channel. But I get you. I get it. This is why I made this video. Okay, what else? Okay, so this is more like she likes who they are, she likes what they represent, and so she hopes that it works. And I get that. I totally respect that. I think this is more like a hopeful 70%. I think I wouldn't put them above some other couples, but I think that they should be relatively high in terms of odds because there's nothing glaring and they both seem like good people who are good to each other for the most part. So next, Jamie and Dylan from Friends with Benefits get 76%, which I'm completely fine with. That's a solid B grade. Gets you there. It's enough. If you had a 76% chance of like winning a lottery, you'd feel pretty freaking good about that. So yeah, I'm fine with that. I love that movie and I think that they are very compatible, and that compatibility really drives the movie, which I think like is the case with a lot of better romantic comedies. So movies about their relationship and then basically figuring out that despite the fact that they both have commitment issues, they're very well matched. And as a side note, this is a movie that made me think that Justin Timberlake would indeed have a film career, but he didn't. But this one's good. So watch it. Let's see what Hannah says. Yeah, I agree. Based, they a partnership based on friendship, which is totally true. They have good communication with sex, which I agree, and is really refreshing and very funny to watch. It's not funny like you're laughing at them, but funny like relatable and cheeky and just really refreshing. So yeah, I think that is a good sign that they could go the distance. So I agree with all that. Next, Mike and Scarlet from 17 again. The author's just killing me. Yes, totally agree. They do such a good job in that movie of establishing a dysfunctional marriage and then fixing that dysfunctional marriage. I mean, not entirely, but like definitely getting it on the mend, You really root for them even though they've been together for so long and there are arguments for divorcing. They are good kids and they would figure it out at the end because he becomes... Next, Allegra and Albert from Hitch. Everybody's favorite romantic comedy B couple, I guess. I did not realize this, but they're great. And they're on this list. At number 4, with an 88% chance, which is an A+, the highest letter grade you can get. So good for them. I agree with the author. Yes, all around. I don't really need to read the little blurb, but yeah, they can entertain each other for decades. That's what Hannah says, and I agree. Totally agree. Next, Nick and Rachel from Crazy Rich Asians get a 92.5%. The 0.5 is really making me wonder where the math comes in now. We haven't had an explanation for the math, but that's very specific. So now I feel like I need to know. Yeah, that's fine. That's true. In Crazy Rich Asians, it's like not only the couple themselves that are their problem, like you get the sense that they've gone through a fairly conventional and healthy like courtship, like dating and relationship and engagement and stuff. It's only when the marriage stuff starts to happen that things get difficult. So I think if they can get through that and get back to like more of a normal life, they'll be fun. So yeah, no, they have a high percentage, but they're also like kind of boring. So yeah, you're like, yeah, you'll be fine, but in like that boring way where I don't find your story super compelling. Next. Number 2, Jenna and Matt from 13 going on 30. They get 100%, which I totally understand because the whole movie sets up that they would be so great together. And it's all about like Jenna learning that, right? So that she can go back and like do things differently. Wouldn't that be nice if that actually happened in real life? But yeah, they're definitely one of the most solid relationships of the rom-com world. But then we have number 1. Who do we think number 1 is? Before I get to it, because I've been just scrolling down, I haven't looked. I'm inclined to go with like a classic, and also like one of my favorites, which is When Harry Met Sally, just because I don't know, it's classic, feels like appropriate for number 1, and also they have a very strong foundation for their relationship by the time they get together. It's been like years and fights and sex and all this stuff. So I think that they would be solid, but there might be another number 1 that I'm not thinking of because there are a lot of them. Movies, that is. Let's see what number 1 is. Next. Interesting. Hannah and Jacob from Crazy Stupid Love gets a bajillion %, which is not mathematically sound, but we could overlook that. This feels like a fanfic on Hannah's part, which is fine because it's a great movie and they're a great couple. Do I feel like we have enough information to be super sure about that? No, because the movie just has a lot of storylines, right? Like it's a 2-hour movie. It has, I think, 3 or 4 different storylines. So we just don't get that much screen time with them compared to, say, a rom-com that's just, the main couple. So you can only be so sure, but are they amazing and adorable? Yes. So I feel okay about this, even though I feel like it's more of a fan pick than like legit science. I feel like legit science has taken a break here, but I guess that's okay. Let's see what she says to justify herself. I'm sure I'll agree. I'll share it with you, and then we'll be done. Okay. Yeah, so they're her favorite rom-com couple ever, which totally valid. I respect that opinion completely. Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling separately are adorable and make almost any movie better. They're paired in 2 different things. They're also together in La La Land. I never put that together. They're so compatible. Okay, focusing. Yeah, good, cool. I feel like it's an emotional choice, but it's an emotional topic. All in all, I agree with a lot of this. I also think it's a super fun exercise. And I wonder if I could do this myself with like 19 other rom-coms or 19 other couples to come up with my own list. I mean, BuzzFeed wouldn't pay me to do it, but also I'm not allowed to leave my house, so I have a lot of free time. If anybody watches this, tell me if you think that would be a fun thing for me to do. I mean, fun for you. I think it'd be fun for me, but like also fun for you. But I really enjoyed that, and I might have to go find more of her content to just like agree with for the most part. You know how people complain about like, oh, people just surround themselves with media that's like an echo chamber. It's like, I just want my rom-com echo chamber of opinions that I can completely get on board with. That was a really fun walk down memory lane. I watched every single one of these. I thought that maybe I wouldn't have watched, like it was totally possible that I wouldn't know one of these, but that definitely didn't happen. I had things to say with every single one. If there were any that you didn't know the references, you could watch that. And I will be back again at some point, maybe with an actual rom-com review. But this really got me into the spirit of things again. So thank you for watching, and I will see y'all later. Bye.